Hello, every folks, and good morning. If this screen right now doesn't give you anxiety, then you probably have never played this game before. So, welcome to Warhawk, back on the PS1. Surprisingly, my favorite little stress inducer that I keep on the Vita. So, what's the deal with this game, and why is it stressful and whatever else? Well, this is essentially a kind of arcade flight sim type situation from back in the 90s. It's one of the first games that came out on the PlayStation there. And this is going to be one of the most kind of randomly brutal games from back in the day. Essentially being again, like a flight sim kind of situation. Oh, shoot, sorry. We got our inside splattered all over the windshield, excuse me. Um, Anyway, so yeah, weirdly brutal kind of game from back in the day, but it's essentially a flight sim that was all about its brutality. Kind of creating a situation where every map that you run into potentially has a surprising amount of creative, horrible ways for all of your characters to end. Yeah, so what's the deal with this game? Why would anybody play this? Like, why is it that we're essentially just kind of getting blown out of the sky and feeling sadness? Well, this is a really well modeled kind of flight sim type situation where you're more or less playing as this impossible VTOL kind of fighter jet thing. And the general idea here is that you're going on a series of only 5 levels, but every one of those levels has again a lot of kind of openness and interactivity to what you can do. Also, these cheesy cutscenes in between are freaking hilarious, and I love them. But it's a really fun game to play, and unfortunately it's one of these ones that also probably won't be getting a remake, also probably won't be coming back anytime soon. And there's a funny little story behind this, that there was an interview with I believe the guy's name was Jaffe, the one of the heads behind this whole thing, where they more or less expected that this would have been the series that took off, and that Twisted Metal was just the fun little side project. So there are two games that use the same engine, that use a lot of the same assets, and in fact, this is why, if I recall correctly, that's why they brought back the Warhawk for Twisted Metal Black as the final boss, because basically the series killed Warhawk. So there was that. And additionally, there was a Warhawk remake on the PS3, and it was a fun multiplayer shooter, but basically had little to nothing to actually do with the original, which is a little funny. But yeah, great music, great gameplay. The again, cheeseball cutscenes. I miss this kind of crap, dude. Like, I hope that this stuff makes a comeback someday. Another little funny side note, just to bring this up here. Apparently, the uniforms were just like leftovers that somebody had from, I guess, Stargate or something like that. And additionally, the jet in the background, they have like I think 7 different designs between the manual, the in-game stuff, the cutscene stuff, the in-game manual, and whatever else. Like, they just can't seem to decide what this thing looks like. Like, here, it has a sort of cockpit that goes up and sort of cuts off near the back. It seems like it's only the head of it or something. Maybe it is meant to be the ejectable cockpit. I don't know, because you can eject at any point. And in fact, the only way to get the good ending of this game is to essentially ram your jet into the final boss and then eject the body of your jet into the final boss. How you're supposed to figure that out, I don't know. But either way, you gotta love this cheeseball stuff. But yeah, so they've got that. They've got a more kind of Blackhawk looking situation. In some of them, they have a more fighter jet looking version in the box art. It looks more like I forget what it was called. One of these chunky helicopters for the in-game manual and stuff. It's fun. It's such a fun little cheeseball thing. But it's one of these games that's actually brutally difficult due to its control scheme. In fact, its default controls are horrific, at least in my eyes. That it almost seems designed to kind of be one of these things that once you've played it for a while, you know which control scheme actually works for you. So, like, personally, I just cannot play this without the hit and run control scheme. Um, but like, as you'll notice right here, yeah, standing still obviously not a good idea, but you're intended to use the shields of your plane here to essentially kind of serve as an offensive tool here, that you're effectively trying to tank as a helicopter, which is just a fun concept. Um, but every one of these maps, again, will have different mechanics to them. So, like, right here, you're in a desert war zone getting shot at the entire time. So lots of moving up and down, but nothing specifically targeting any part of your jet. Whereas, for example, the second zone, you'll typically see way more enemies that are potentially targeting your cockpit there because you have to face a lot of stuff head on. In that volcano level that we saw earlier, that's going to be a case where there's submarines under the water that are regularly targeting your tail. And if you don't constantly do flips, you basically just get your tail blown off. And that was before the boss got involved. So it has a tendency to be a very stressful game. It's not a very long game, but it is very stressful in terms of how stuff can potentially go wrong very quickly. And the funny part is that they even give you additional kind of arcade-type bonuses and whatever else. So, like, if you never attack anything but the actual objectives, you get an ammo can increase on some of your weapons. If you end up, I think it's like if you take no damage at all, you end up supercharging your shields or something. There's a lot of little fun things like that. And funnily enough, there's actually cheats in this one that you can put in, and it actually gives you cheat codes every time that you beat the game, including a mode where like you have extra shields and your only weapon is an infinite flash bomb, which kind of electrocutes everything on screen, and I don't know how you're supposed to really make much use of that. It's surprisingly almost like a New Game Plus mode. But yeah, really fun stuff. So, unfortunately, at the moment, the only place that you can actually get this, unless something has changed, is going to be on a just like many old PS1 classics. It's going to be stuck on PS1 and Vita. Now, or not PS1, sorry, PS3 and Vita. Now, in that situation, is this maybe coming back as a classics kind of thing? I mean, maybe. I don't know. At some point, maybe it will. Last I checked, it wasn't there. Maybe it is. I don't know. It seems like a lot of the time, whenever I make an assumption on this stuff, somebody finds it in some oddly specific location. So it is what it is. Anyway, so yeah, as I mentioned before, every one of these levels is a little bit different. Like, for example, you may want to approach this particular level by just taking it relatively slow, finding all the bits and pieces that are firing at you from the walls, or eventually you start going through it pretty darn fast, memorizing where all the boats are, memorizing where all the little pathways are, to try and, kind of carve your way through, as it were. But this was a really fun era for single track. I kind of wish that we had them going and doing something like this again. Not necessarily like there haven't been arcade flight sims, and obviously, as far as crazy apocalyptic, craziness in an airplane, there were things like Project Wingman and whatever. But it's just this is a really fun kind of setting to explore here. It's a fun way to approach stuff like this. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any kind of VTOL games like this, which seems like a bit of a missed opportunity because this is just, again, just a really fun format. The only problem is that these controls, again, absolutely suck. Even with everything kind of optimized the way that I like to use it and whatever else, it is a completely doo-doo thing to control. And as I understand, based on interviews and whatnot, that was no accident. They wanted people to get that feeling of mastery as they go and they struggle through these controls and get absolutely destroyed over and over and over. And like, I can definitely see that happening. Like, I know one of my kind of core memories growing up there was this morning when I woke up that we had just gotten the PS1, and so this was one of the games that we had actually started with. And so I'm seeing my dad failing at this thing. I'm seeing my brother failing at the desert level. I'm going and repeatedly seeing all these failures back to back to back. I'm like, hold on, I got this. Please let me try it. No, you're too little. You can't try it. No, please let me try it. So lots of begging later. End up getting a shot, and like I want to say, okay. Obviously, memories are going to be a little bit optimistic. I want to say it was a first try win, but I remember feeling absolutely freaking amazing for that. As far as getting through the desert level anyway, and then just getting completely demolished in the canyon zone. But still, that's kind of this game in a nutshell. Like, it's been more than a couple decades since it came out, and to this day, I have yet to actually complete it on the normal or high difficulty without any kind of additional modifiers being active. Like that previously mentioned Thor mode was actually pretty darn fun. So yeah, really, really good game though. That I kind of wish was around in some manner, because it's kind of a shame that it isn't. Like this is just a cool idea for a game. It's like you're on this very short but very kind of brutal mission here, with this little nimble airplane. And they actually mention it right in the intro. Like the only reason that this thing's even being used, and we're about to get our tail blown off again. The only reason that this thing is being used is because it's the most maneuverable thing that they have left. It's not the ideal plane. It's not the best plane that they've got. In fact, that's what we see in the Warhawk sequel on the PS3, that we see all the better planes that they had at the time. And then this is like, oh no, we literally only have one thing that's able to go and kind of collect these boxes that this game's about. That the general idea is that there's basically this frickin' wizard guy that manages to somehow conjure up infinite armies out of what is effectively magical Kool-Aid. And so you're going and collecting his juice. You're just going and taking his batteries. Like, here you go. You need these to infinitely make command and conquer tanks and whatever else. Like, we're just kind of taking your lunch money. So yeah, cool setting for a game. Definitely, again, it gets sillier and sillier as you go on, because it seems very strange at first. Like, why are we fighting this unnamed guy? And then you finally get to the unnamed guy at the end, and it's like, oh, guy's a giant robot spider god, I guess. Sure, if you say so. Lives in a giant kind of Skeletor fortress, you say, navigating through volcanoes and like friggin' death castles, you say. Amazing. So yeah, also one of these beautiful eras of a game that actually manages to have a good machine gun on your flight thing, which you don't see too many flight things that have a truly threatening machine gun that's actually your main weapon. Anyway, so yeah, absolutely love this thing though. And again, the amount of variations that can happen, although I feel like they probably could have done it a bit better. The amount of variations of different outcomes that can happen based on kind of how you play and whatnot is very fun. Not necessarily in terms of different endings, even though there are different endings, but it's just those weird scenarios where, depending on if you manage to eject, if you manage to beat the boss or whatnot, if you manage to damage the boss but lost to it, there's a lot of outcomes that can happen, like, for example, you saw the one earlier where everything just went completely horrifically wrong, and that's mostly because we lost 2 jets pretty much right away. And then from there, I ended up having a more or less okay run, but it wasn't enough to solve anything. And additionally, it was considered that the cockpit did not make a safe landing upon ejecting. But if you, for example, do make a safe landing, like if you eject and happen to land above the water, the ending there would be totally different. They're like, oh, the commander lady's on her way, maybe they'll have another jet ready to go, and it's implied to be a bit of a happier ending. It's still probably a bad ending, but still, it's implied to be a bit of a happier one. So yeah, that's interesting. It's a cool little thing. And, based on all of those videos on Tactics Ogre, you know that I appreciate a good variation when it comes to these. Well, not even these games, but just like any game. Like I always appreciate multiple scenarios playing out and seeing it adapt to the stuff that you do and whatnot. It always gives it that little bit of extra punch, And especially in a case like this game here, it feels very satisfying to. To go back through these different scenarios, see something different every time that you're playing through. I like, just like something like Tactics Ogre there, this is a game that I've played absolutely ad nauseum, and I still regularly see different endings. Like, I want to say at some point I probably looked up a compilation or something of different endings, and I'm still regularly surprised by them. So call that a failing memory or what you will, but it's a really fun game. Again, the modeling on it is really fun. It's cool how you can look around your cockpit with certain kind of button combinations and whatnot. It's cool to see how different weapons affect different stuff and whatnot. And again, cheeseball cutscenes, absolutely amazing. That scene from earlier where you beat the desert, and lady comes up to the jet and is just like, yeah, don't bother getting out. Like, that sounds like every time I forgot something at the grocery store. Oh man. But yeah. Now, Granted, if they do make a modern remake of this or something, there's a lot of roughness for sure that needs to be worked on. Not the least of which is that there's some pretty blatant imbalances in a lot of areas. So, like right here, it's weird that this hallway where they shoot marbles at you is one of the most brutal in the game. Um, and especially we got weirdness like that volcano from before is by far harder than the actual final boss or anything. Weirdly enough, the little submarines that pop out of the water that you can't even attack, like they've got little silt strider things that are shooting at you. They got planes that are shooting at you. They got submarines firing out of the water. They got the towers that are shooting at you, and then eventually the boss, which is just a straight up rave. Sure, I guess. But every one of these different things is hitting you from different sides, and for some reason, all of them track onto your tail like nobody's business in that level. So if you aren't flying a very particular way, you just get your rear half blown off all the time. Even in cases where it's like, hey, look, you got hit from the front by this missile. Like, no, 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 no. That clearly hit your tail. So it's weird to use things like what I used in that hallway there, where you maybe position yourself to take some hits on your stronger shields for a little bit, because oftentimes things are hitting you from the bottom or in some weird angle, or are programmed potentially wrong to hit you in the wrong parts or something. Because obviously they were kind of doing their best at this time, but this doesn't mean that that programming's infallible. Like due to I'm assuming the way that the PS1's able to go and kind of register hits and whatnot, these doors are probably one of the most brutal insta-killers in the game. Where there are literal trapdoors and crushers and whatever else in one of the later levels, and they are nowhere nearly as brutal as those doors for some reason. They'll knock you around a little bit and whatnot, but those ones will just delete your existence. Yeah, very strange stuff there. Alright, now we got all these guys going. We're gonna ignore these little flying whale things for now, because we need to blow off these big cannons off this plane, or off this transport thing right now. I didn't really mean to do that, but whatever. It's close enough. You actually only need to take down 2 of these smaller ones here. And again, nice little thing that multiple different approaches can potentially work, where, like, let's say you can get very close and start trying to deal with them that way. You can do hit and runs. It really does kind of make you feel like you're going and you're planning this thing out on your own on the fly, you know? So really fun stuff there. And I mentioned earlier the whole kind of arcade simulation aspect of it. The funny part is, if they had released this in an arcade, I would imagine it probably would have done a lot better. It definitely feels like it was designed to be an arcade game. Where, like, if you, let's say, take a look at a lot of our options here, like, we'll see that our cockpit is slightly damaged, but we can potentially pick up a heal up here. Like, this is one of those little floating platforms. There's some other ones that have a heal. I know that there's going to be an instant heal from taking out this top tower here. So we're just going to go ahead and duck and weave here a little bit. Try to get in between those shots. One of those old techniques from back in the day. Because it can only track I think, like, it tracks to the bottom of your plane or something. But yeah, you see the stuff modeled out. Like we saw right there, the cockpit was starting to get torn to pieces because the shield was down and everything. That's such a cool detail. Lots of really cool details in this game. And yeah, we haven't really seen much from Single Track since then. I don't know if they were directly involved by any means in, for example, the Twisted Metal reboot from a little bit ago or whatnot. Like, it does definitely feel like they should have been doing more stuff. Though I will say the original kind of guy behind a lot of the decisions here, Gaffy, they seem to mostly be kind of just going and posting angry rants on YouTube these days, so I don't know. But they do occasionally answer questions and stuff, so that was neat. Like, I was kind of wondering what the deal was with one of the themes looping weird a little while ago, and apparently they didn't know. Anyway, so yeah. That is going to be Warhawk in a nutshell. If you were looking for a game that that makes you feel stress on a regular basis, that's pretty much completely unrelenting in terms of its difficulty, that regularly ups the ante on every map here, and technically speaking, can be completed in under 30 minutes if everything goes well, but realistically, you may sit there not completing the thing for several decades. That is kind of what this game's all about, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, it's just a neat idea of a game. Like right here, we've basically already beaten the level here. This realistically only took a few seconds, well, a few minutes in this case. So rather than looking for another full heal, we now go ahead and approach the tail bit, because they've gone and launched their planes, and I love this level of interactability. Like, Single Track back in the day was on fire with their level design, I swear. Like, between this and Twisted Metal 2, like, dude, it was a good time. So yeah, like my brother and I would play this all the frickin' time. Would lose every single time, but again, just brutal games with my brother was kind of how we spent a lot of our off time. So it was like this. We had stuff like Exo Squad over on the Genesis. That was probably our previous getting repeatedly walloped adventure. And yeah, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. And again, I think the closest modern equivalent probably would be something like Project Wingman, but I don't think you can do the whole VTOL thing in that one. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I never actually played that one, but I did watch a good bit of it. It seemed like you just had your normal fighter jets and such, which there's nothing wrong with. You know, we don't see this weirdly specific thing ever, so that would be kind of neat. Because obviously, something like this controls super awkwardly, if we can be completely honest. Like right there, just because I was trying to speed up a little bit, I ended up running straight into a wall, which is more than likely why you have shields to begin with, because this thing without shields would be a complete unplayable mess. Because yeah, the controls are awkward on purpose to kind of give you that little stress-out feeling. Most of the time, stuff is really good as far as its hitboxes, but like you saw with that box over there, other times you can just kind of clip through things. So there's that too. And believe it or not, the volcano thing that you saw kind of cause a loss earlier is actually the second to last mission. That it's basically this, and then the Goofy Skeletor Castle, and then the second half of Goofy Skeletor Castle, and that's really about it. It's not a very long game by any means, and it is a very, very difficult game. Like, technically, if it wasn't for the controls, like if it had a more modern control scheme, if it was a bit less janky with some of the attacks that could happen, I'm sure it would be a lot less difficult. A lot of the kind of the game overs that you're going to get will definitely come from the game kind of just being weird sometimes. Like in this particular map, again, those fairly cheap submarines, like you just saw one pop out of the water there, and there's very little you can realistically do about that. Like back in the day, my approach was just this, that I would just keep flying in circles until the shields ended up popping back up. And for whatever reason, they can't seem to track you while you're doing this. So yeah, it was just kind of this until until you can get a few shots off, and then take a few hits, and then that's kind of about it. All right, like now we're back, and go ahead and swarmer those ones. Like the swarmers in this, dude. Like this is one of the reasons that I always run micro missiles in Armored Core. Just like the swarmers in this game inspired that decision forever. Like it has already been made back in the 90s. Whenever I was going and making a build in Armored Core 6 even, that I needed to have my multiple launchers that made the exact swarmer pattern. Like that was just one of those things, you know. Like it's one of those things that just feels good and sticks with you. Yeah, I should be using the rockets here. I just don't want to switch. Alright, yeah, this canister, there should be 2 more canisters, I believe, up top, and then once you retrieve those, you get the last ones that pop out of the volcano, and that's when the fun starts. That's when, when all the utter brutality ends up appearing. I want to say we missed one tower down here, because I still haven't gotten my super swarmers, which I might have also blown up already, I'm not sure. I'm just going to do the little duck and weave here to try and save my tail a little bit. Probably not going to happen, but, you know. Is what it is, and there we go. Booty is already getting blown off, as it were. So we'll just go ahead and do the recharge flip as we go up and down through the clouds. And, by the way, one thing that really made me enjoy a completely different game from this later on down the line was when we had, I think it was, dang it, what was it called? It was like a Elite something or Rebel something or something. One of the Star Wars Battlefront games on the PSP used something kind of like this-ish, where in that particular case they kind of had this mechanic where you could fly in and out of different fights. So it just really made me think of this particular area. That it has this kind of up and down situation where you've got two different sections to your map and whatnot. So here, let's switch over to the proper lock-ons. Probably shouldn't be wasting those on these basic towers. Should be just using rockets, but oh well. There we go. There's a repair. Okay, there's that thing recharged. There's technically one tower down there that I know of, so that's a good thing to keep track of. And that's the other thing. It really does kind of respect you in that sense that it really wants you to kind of memorize kind of at least temporarily memorize how all of these maps are going to kind of better deal with the challenges that you're running into. Try to formulate a plan on the fly. Again, not exactly ideal balance by any means, but still pretty cool. Oh, there's my super swarmers. I am stuck in something right now. That's not good. I got stuck in the terrain or something. Because, yeah, stuff is relatively well modeled, but anything that has a little gap in it, you just repeatedly can get ping-ponged back and forth if you happen to touch that gap, which, yeah, thoroughly rips apart your ship, so there's that. Because every hit is technically a hit, so, you know. Alright, so we got our super swarmers. There's 2 machine gun upgrades as well, but I don't think we're going to have that right now. Just going to try to pop some shots over on this guy. We should get one more. I think there's a swarmer pack inside one of these, too. You haven't played this a ton. I don't know what you're talking about. Clearly haven't played this thing obsessively since I was a kid. Alright, there's some more lock-ons, though. It's kind of funny, because sometimes the lock-ons are one color, sometimes they're another, and in this case, they changed them to the upgraded color, even though I haven't upgraded them, because I think they expected you to have the upgrade by now. Though you do also lose the upgrade if you die, so, you know, maybe you wouldn't have it anyway. But what I wanted to show here is that this is one that actually is one of the few times that they don't make a big deal of the boss showing up. Like those previous ones, they all had cutscenes. Whenever the boss popped out, you know, they're like, oh, look, here's this boss, here's this, you know, pyramid blowing out of the ground, here's this, you know, here's this this transport plane that's going and opening up all its doors and everything. You know, it was this whole big deal there, and in this case, the boss just sort of shows up. It's like the music has changed. It is time for Rave Volcano. So that is neato, and I think... Yeah, here we go. That should be the last one, I think. Might be, might not be, I don't know. Guess we'll find out in a moment. But yeah, fun variety of weapons in this thing. They did bring those back when it came to that... here, we'll just pop this thing. That's basically what you want those for. Did the music just change? I think it might have. No, it didn't, because we saw this guy here. Alright. Alright, yeah, there we go. Now the music changed. The situation changed, and pretty much of the everything is gone now. That'd be kind of funny to accidentally speedrun this thing, but we're probably about to get rocked. Yeah, this thing is weirdly brutal. So you're just kind of fighting this thing and attempting to get into the volcano. Wait, holy crap, is it actually gone? Did that actually work? Surely not. Like, there's no way that's it already. Like, this is the one that always gives me issues every single freaking time. Right? Well, either way, getting completely rocked one way or another, so there's practically nothing left of this jet right now. Probably about to lose our upgrades. I do have super swarmers, which would probably be pretty useful here, because I don't even know if I'm actually firing at anything there. But yeah, I think you just blow off all the lights of this thing, and that's when stuff goes different. Yeah, there we go. That's actually the volcano done. Nice. And completely fighting against the controls. Like, no There, we eject out of it. Cool thing, by the way, if you eject out of your plane, what's left of your plane actually turns into.
You guys okay? Think so. What happened?
Here,
Emergency
we'll
telephone.
let the
Got
cutscene
some
play out.
stuff about a tiny
But if
ball
you
in the
eject
ground.
out of your plane, it actually turns into a kind of heavy projectile thing. That's why you're able to actually kill stuff with what's left of your plane. Quick little coffee sip there, and oh, really? It had one hit left. Okay, well, anyways, so yeah. Interestingly enough, this means that yeah, we basically have this thing beaten. And I don't know why those specifically needed a different model, but there we go. So that is almost the entire game already, just kind of over the course of this review. Again, not a long game, but you can see how this would be a problem. And this is the medium difficulty. The high difficulty is like, oh, you got shot twice and your friggin' wing's gone now. And for a game like this, that's a bit of a thing. Now, how would you think a game like this ends? Because if you guessed, again, Skeletor Castle, and you have more or less free reign over how to go about it, then yeah, this is exactly what's going on here. Let's kind of go after this guy. Surprisingly, this one is, unlike the previous one, which was best handled through a lot of dodging, the one before that, which was handled through a lot of speed and precision attacks, in this case, just taking it slow is the answer. And it's actually especially funny because the previews back in the day, when you would go and look at it through like a PlayStation Underground disc or something, the previews back in the day were basically showing you every level. Like you'd think that there was more. They literally showed you practically the entire game in the previews, and that is just really funny to me. All right, so we'll just take it slow. There will be some cases where you get hit by stuff off screen. Technically, here, how did this go? I think it was triangle or something. Yeah, we're getting hit by something, and I don't know what it is right now. Hopefully we no longer get hit by that something and have a chance to recharge. Seriously, what is shooting at me here? Is there even anything shooting it? Like, it might literally be just bugged or something. Or in other cases, it's going to be missiles that show up from off-screen. Like, I'm thoroughly convinced that there's just missiles that appear out of absolutely thin air, because that's kind of bullshit. There's nothing actually firing those. Seems a bit cheap. Like, in this case, it's that pyramid thing, but yeah, the other ones, I already blew up the pyramid, so why is it shooting? Alright. But yeah, I have no idea for sure. But you gotta go through both sides of this thing. Why is it still able to shoot? I don't know. Get one little more knocker thing. Not a good place to have your controls damaged. That is for dang sure. And then we crash into the wall, naturally. Again, weird place to send a plane into. Yeah, last one, she doesn't even care. She's like, screw it, go back, do your job. The hell are you doing, idiot? But yeah, anything that you beat remains beaten, so it does have that kind of permanence to it. Probably not very good odds of actually going and completing this thing, but what's interesting is that as long as you made it to the ending, you kinda sorta get a good-ish ending right from the get-go. Because technically, the main kind of objective of the game is stopping the wizard guy, right? And so we haven't even seen him up to this point. Here, it's just popping up, and apparently it just spawned a new one. Okay, whatever. Wonder if we can get rid of this thing in our back here. I wonder if it'll spawn a new one. We're gonna stay here a little bit, see if it spawns. Yeah, it does spawn a new one. Rude. Well, I guess it tracks, because this guy is supposed to be able to spawn infinite stuff forever. Anyway, so yeah, the main question is that nobody can figure out where he is or where he's coming from. That they have this army that basically just materializes out of nowhere and then disappears. They don't know exactly what makes him tick or any of that. So, oh shoot. I don't even know what exactly got stuck there, because we got stuck on some corner of the door. Let's see. In the gauntlet of pain. let's see. Does let's see. Realize that he is choking to death on a chicken bone from the meal he was eating. Like, as long as you get to the ending, you are indirectly responsible. But no, you have not won Warhawk. The best is yet to come. I love these endings, dude. So like, even if you get to the ending, you still get a "the world is fine" ending. Like in some cases, if you made it about halfway through, I think the kind of army just kind of nukes him. In other times, they just overwhelm him with numbers. I think it was. In that particular case, he laughs so hard he dies of a choking on a chicken wing. Like, you gotta love it, you know. So, anyway, so that's Warhawk. That is basically the world saved, I guess you could say. Um, and yeah, I really hope at some point this gets a like the remake that it deserves. I don't necessarily see that happening, considering that this was a case that this was supposed to be the sort of I guess you could say main selling thing that Single Track was working on back in the day, and then Twisted Metal just absolutely wiped the floor with it sales wise, and then it just more or less was a thing that gets referenced every now and then. Very oddly specific game, but really, really fun there. I wonder the director there. I wonder if that's actually who the pilots are named after. Like, if anybody watched any of the XCOM runs, I have both pilot characters in there as custom characters and whatnot, because that's just a really funny idea to me. Um, and yeah, again, even if you get to the ending, there's a ton of endings there. Like, I think the best ending is the smaller pilot and commander lady end up getting hitched, and then they all start selling T-shirts that says "I survived the Red Mercury War." but but again, like, beautifully cheesy stuff from back in the day. And would recommend giving it a try if you have the means to do so, which become less and less available every day. So hopefully, hopefully it becomes available on more stuff. I'd love to see this on, come back on Steam or something. It'd be amazing to see what kind of mods people would come up with. Um, so yeah, obviously, probably the first thing that anyone would come up with is a better control scheme. Because, oh my god, is it designed to be designed wrong? Okay, it's designed to control hard. They said that in interviews, that they were trying to design it in a way that just made it brutal to actually play. And yeah, that's definitely true. Because the default control scheme is basically, I guess, somewhat intuitive if you're a armored core player or something, where you've got like your speed up and slow down on your triggers, you've got your banks on your L1s and R1s, and then you've got your guns on your square, your missiles on your circle, and then general butt saving from Sony. I gotta love that. Anyway, yeah, I think it was like weapon switch on triangle, and then X is your boost, but then again your slowdown.
Been a dentist like my mother told me.
All right, so that's about that. Y'all have yourselves a good one. Yeah, I love how they're like, here's this plain game. You did good. Also, go get Twisted Metal, which, yeah, is freaking amazing too. Um, Actually, okay, weird last side note. This is part of a funny little thing with these guys that they had. They had this brief moment with Twisted Metal and Warhawk where they just got really into UI porn. So, like, whenever you're playing Twisted Metal 1 in first person, that there's extreme amounts of detail on every single one of the HUDs. Like, you're going and playing as one guy, and they're gonna have, let's say, a bunch of decorations all over their stuff that makes sense. Cop guy is generally going to be a relatively oh, there we go, we see it there. um, the kind of more straight-laced sorts will be relatively clean. You see the full HUD of the motorcycle. Roadkill, I think, was the one that we saw earlier with that HUD there. You can barely see out of what's his face, Warthog's stuff there. It's just really fun to see all that stuff in first person, Like, Sweet Tooth's thing looks kind of deranged on the inside. The taxi's kind of just beaten up on the inside. It's good stuff. All right. Yeah. Man, 30 years ago, really? God, way to feel freaking old, man. All right. Y'all have yourselves a good one, and I'll see you later. Take care.